Okay, how's it going again, Jack?
It's going well. How are you, Carter?
Not bad, not bad. Well, thanks for joining us. And before we get into it too much, for anyone else that would like to join these conversations, where it's open to any guests. So if you reach out to us and put in a formal request to be on this podcast, be on an episode, we'd love to check into it and reach out to you and get you on here for a discussion or whatever you'd like to discuss or just being a part of the conversation. And we'll share more details about that later on in the discussion today on how you can reach out to us and how you can join this forefront community. And I guess we're going to touch on that a little bit here because the first thing that I'd like to share is the Discord group that we started or Discord server that we've started. I'm just going to share that here very quickly. And okay, I have to change my settings actually on Zoom, or can you see my screen right now, Zach, by any chance?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the Forefront HQ Discord server, and right now there's only three channels that are present, just a general channel, a channel where we're going to share all of our podcast episodes on, and then a channel for audio or for audience questions. But this is going to grow far beyond this shortly, and we're going to have more channels for specific subject matter and specific topics in the very near future here. So this is kind of the initial rough draft or the initial starting point for this community, but it's going to grow far beyond that. But it's this Discord server has been around for some time, and we have 100+ members already. And the community has kind of been curated over time, or I've invited individuals within my Intactivist network over time to join this community. So it's a good, strong, solid base right now of Intactivists. And we're looking to grow it here, though, right now and in the near future. So if you like this community, the Forefront community, if you want to get more involved, then this Discord server is the best place to be to engage with us and get on board with our mission. And is there anything else you'd like to add to that here, Jack?
I think you covered most of it, Carter. One thing I would like to call out, I kind of want this to be a resource for the community. So I want us to be a resource, or I definitely myself want to be a resource, especially for people that feel disaffected when engaging with this issue or don't feel as if they've found their place of belonging in any of the existing spaces around this issue yet. I really want this in part to be for the audience, and I would like to lower the barrier of entry to make it as easy as possible for you to get involved. So if you felt even a little bit like how I'm describing, we want you to come join and be part of the community and feel free to ask us questions. There's no silly questions. I really want to make it as easy as possible to get involved.
Perfect. Yeah. And I think something you touched on a little bit before we had this public conversation is that we want this community to be a sort of force multiplier for Intactivists. So if you have any pursuits or goals or something on your agenda that it would be advantageous to bring more people on board with or bring more attention to whatever your pursuit is, this community is a really great way to accelerate that or get eyes on it and get attention on whatever it is that you're trying to pursue and push forward. So it's definitely a community that is focused on uplifting people within our community and empowering them.
Exactly, yeah. We want to empower you and empower your voice. Your voice matters, and we'd love for you to be part of these conversations.
Yep. And that's something that we felt ourselves was really lacking from the larger intactivist space. So that's partially why we started this organization. Um, and I think there's not many concrete examples of how we can amplify each other's voices right now, but I think we're going to see that here very soon as we grow this community. And I'm really going to put really try and drive home that point, especially initially for anyone that comes into this community and has a project that they're working on. I very well myself might get involved in that as I want to um, find any ways that I can to get involved with other people's Intactivist projects and start building momentum here for us as a larger collective. Okay,
Yeah, I think that's great. I think I also want to call out, even if you don't have a project, I'd still love if you came and
great
joined.
point.
I don't want there to be any requirements to come.
Absolutely.
If you just feel like you're personally suffering from this issue or you feel disaffected, that's what the Discord is for.
Yep, great point. All right. So next thing that we're going to dive into is, and we're considering having this be a regular portion of the conversation of these podcast episodes, or however we want to frame this. I'm not sure if podcast is the most appropriate label, but going forward, potentially a regular feature that occurs on these episodes is we do reaction content. So there's a photo or a video or a comment that's left on social media that either we identify or someone else from our community identifies that they want to have discussed during these episodes. We're going to dive into it and give our perspective and give our opinion and share the content with our larger community here because there's a lot of very interesting content, to say the least, that comes out around circumcision and juvenile genital mutilation. And I think it'd be really interesting and also very informative to hear a breakdown of that and to hear the perspective of somebody who feels maybe like a victim of genital mutilation, hear their perspective on people laughing at this offense and trivializing this offense and diminishing the seriousness of this offense. So that's something that we're going to try out today, and if people respond well to it, we'll definitely give a lot of consideration to making this a regular part of these episodes, or for a portion of it. So I'm going to share my screen again here. I'm going to share the sound, and I'm going to, and let me know if you can hear this. Here's gonna,
When I told people I was having a boy, they were like, "Are you gonna?"
is it coming through, Jack?
It's coming through, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm doing full screen here. I'm going back, and we're just gonna watch it in one straight shoot. It's only a minute, and it's only a minute and 18 seconds, so it won't be too long.
When I told people I was having a boy, they were like, "Are you gonna circumcise him?" I'm like, "You're okay. That's weird that you care what my kid's dick looks like." I didn't even think about that. That did not dawn on me that that was my responsibility to curate my son's penis. And then I started panicking because I'm like, oh my God, but like circumcision is genital mutilation, even though it looks so good. It looks so good. It's like, okay. It looks so good. So I didn't know what to do, so we just did half. We just went half. I like it. I think it looks amazing. Like, you know that haircut that lesbians get where it's shaved on one side and then like just full on the other? It's so chic. It's like, it's very French. So I think it's gonna be all the rage. That's what I think.
Okay, so I feel like it starts out pretty tame.
Or what my kid's dick looks like.
In some ways, like she's almost initially she's framing it like, yeah, it's kind of weird that people are asking about circumcision for my son, and that's how she starts it off with. Um, and then it very quickly devolves into serious, from my perspective, totally unfathomable degeneracy very quickly. And so we'll get to that point in the video again over here.
And then I started panicking because I'm like, oh my God, but like Circumcision is genital mutilation, even though it looks so good.
So if we take that at face value, what she's saying is that she recognizes that amputating the foreskin from an infant is genital mutilation, but then she's pairing that and justifying it by saying that it looks so good when the foreskin has been amputated from their penis. So she's really bringing in the aesthetic dimension of this for a decision to commit. And she knows that it's felon, she knows that it's sexual battery on her child. So I would be curious to hear the argument that is against that or is in opposition to that. No, she doesn't know, or however somebody might trivialize that. But I would say that this is a mother who understands that it's genital mutilation and is pursuing it largely because she believes it's aesthetically more pleasing. Um, and I think we just need to take a moment to recognize the state that we're in right now as a society. And we can just frame this as the United States right now, but people are in comedy clubs are openly joking about juvenile genital mutilation, and knowing that, they're committing sexual battery on their own children and that it's for aesthetic reasons. So I partially bring this up to frame it to the other intactivists who are trying to largely present this as an education problem for parents. I certainly think that there is some truth. There is truth to what they're saying, but there's a whole other side of this where actually a large portion of the people in the United States are filthy, filthy, degenerate scum that are brazenly and recklessly defiling their children, with no concern for their well-being and safety, and they joke about it. So I think both of these things can be true. There can be some parents who are, a parent could be wildly uneducated and also a total degenerate, and somebody who committed a crime, openly committed a very serious crime and offense on their children. I think both of these things can be true, but I think this dominating perspective within intactivism right now that all the parents are these, um, total, strictly uneducated, sleepwalking into this and have no idea what they're doing. I'm not, I'm definitely starting to counter that and present a very different perspective that I think is the true and accurate one. um, so I think this is going to cause a lot of strife within intactivism, but it's a necessary evolution for a lot of reasons, and one is around the responsibility and the culpability of the parents involved here. You have any That kind of went for a long time there, Jack. So I want to see if you had anything you wanted to say on that.
I think that all makes a lot of sense. And something you said about this before the show that I kind of heard in what you just said as well was around for other social justice issues, if there was someone so obviously making light of it, like this comedian is, they would get canceled. And I think you were kind of saying that here a little bit with how acceptable this kind of speech is right now in the world and what it says about the current culture and the current state of this issue in the world. I think one thing that's really interesting about that is I think canceling or kind of what you're saying, trying to make this kind of speech impermissible is really valuable because it raises the stakes to what I believe is the correct level. When I'm engaging with this issue, it's incredibly serious to me. I have an incredibly strong emotional reaction to engaging with this issue, maybe more so than anything else in my entire life. This is very, very serious to me and incredibly personal. So I kind of think it makes a lot of sense to engineer other people to raise the stakes around this issue to that level. So whether that's engineering us, other people that agree with us, or people that don't, including the comedian, by trying to say this kind of speech is completely impermissible and your professional life should be over for even daring to say something so culturally inappropriate. I think that even without respect to the contents of the issue, I feel like even people that don't agree, this raises the emotional stakes to the correct level. As in, even people that are resistant to that, who are saying, I don't see why this joke is so bad. And I yes, you're crazy for wanting to cancel the person. They're really emotionally defending it now. So you've kind of engineered in them the correct emotional response, even though they don't agree. So I think for a number of reasons, including some that you were kind of alluding to, as in allowing this kind of speech is really re-traumatizing for the victims. I think that's a really important note. I think another important note is that trying to prohibit it has the correct emotional response in everyone. People on our side get really worked up about wanting to do the right thing and stopping this kind of speech, and people on the wrong side are feeling the pressure a little bit and are really upset about how you dare even suggest that.
Great point. Yeah. And I think that speaks to the fact that we need to just raise the stakes here on this subject entirely. Like, I think we've even played a role in creating the permissibility within our culture. I'm not saying we need to come down on ourselves very hard or we're playing this significant role, but every time you don't challenge the dominant cultural perspective on this issue right now, um, you're playing a role in allowing it to persist. And there's going to be times where it's going to be very challenging and maybe not even necessary, or there's great rationale for why you shouldn't intervene and share what needs to be said. But I think there's a long way for us to go right now, and we're going to adopt some of the approaches that other movements have taken. And I think one of those is this cancel culture sort of approach, or this cancellation sort of approach, and finding ways that we can start bringing the heat to, in this instance, like this comedian. I think it's easier said than done. And I think comedy in a lot of instances can be insulated from this type of pressure. Um, but the reality is the way that people are framing this is creating a permissible culture to genitally mutilate children. And so the stakes are really high for us, essentially. Like, if we don't change that perspective, then we're going to continue having people genitally mutilating children. So there's like, what do you permit within comedy? But the reality is, like, they're like, oh, don't intrude into comedy and don't try to police comedy. And you know, maybe for a more simple mind, there's a lot of logic in that. But the reality is I want to fucking win here. So this is totally playing a role. Comedy can play a huge role in shifting people's perspective. So okay, if you feel like comedy, can't be policed and intrude into, that's your own perspective. But we want to win on this issue, so we might feel very differently about that, and it is what it is. But not
Yeah.
not that I think we should, make this person necessarily our first target or something like that. And we've got to be careful how we present that. But I think they're gonna over time, people are gonna recognize we're really cutthroat about this. We want to win at any cost. So, um, involving ourselves in canceling comedians is definitely on the table for us and not something that we would shy away from at all.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I kind of feel similarly, as in, I'm not usually the kind of person who's the comedian or joke police.
Right.
I just think for this issue, the severity, as far as I am concerned, is so high. I think, kind of like you said, I'm willing to do anything. So when I'm deciding that I want to be extraordinarily critical, even of comics making light of this situation, that's a strategic decision. And that's kind of a little bit against my nature. My nature is not to be the comedy police. But I think you kind of put it perfectly. I kind of want to do whatever it takes to win. And I think this kind of strategy has been shown to work, like you said, for other social justice issues. It just raises the stakes to the appropriate level and it gets the issue taken seriously when it's not currently.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So So the next thing that, and I think we're done. Yeah, I think we're done with that video unless there's anything else you want to touch base on there with that one.
I think
We
that's
didn't
all I
really
had.
cover it super in depth.
Did you have
But
anything else?
there is one other part of it, and I don't really know what she means by this, but I think it's interesting. If we
It looks so good.
Can you hear the sound still? Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I can still hear it.
So I didn't know what to do. So we just did half. We just went.
Like what is she, like I think what she means by that is they pursued a partial circumcision, which you might be familiar with. Like some physicians, some parents frame this way because the parents and the physicians are themselves starting to recognize that there is a spectrum or range to the amount of tissue that they'll remove from infants' penises, different amounts of the foreskin that they'll amputate. So some parents are even requesting less invasive amputations. Like they're aware enough that they know that, getting more tissue removed could potentially be a lot more problematic. So they'll be like, we only want some of our child's sexual sensory anatomy amputated, and they'll frame it as a partial circumcision. So I wonder if um, that played a role here, and that's why she's saying that. Or her son just got a partial, quote unquote, partial circumcision, and she recognized that and said, oh, it's not cut as much as normal. um, or what I was expecting, because a lot of parents will look, after their child gets a quote unquote partial circumcision, or a not, a circumcision foreskin amputation that didn't amputate much of the foreskin, they will literally go back and have more of their child's foreskin amputated to have the aesthetic outcome that they're looking for, which is a fully exposed glands, even when the penis is flaccid. And I just think we got to rip the band-aid off here and be honest about the nature of our people at large, and what really is fucking going on here. But yeah, I just thought that dimension of it was really perverse. This sounds like a woman who does kind of have a deeper understanding of genital mutilation and is a seriously deviant mind. And I mean, if we're really taking this at face value, under my administration, I would seriously consider taking children away from parents like this. And that will probably never be a real threat on the horizon, but we need to start framing this. Everyone's going to have their own different perspective, but I'm going to start framing this in the way that I think is accurate, even if it is extremely offensive to other people and potentially brings ruination to their identity, short and long term. This is the true perspective that I want to present here. And I think a lot of men are not going to shy away from this anymore. So this woman is a severe pervert and facilitated extremely violent acts on her child and understands it to a pretty serious depth. This is not somebody that I'm comfortable with having children at this point and being a guardian of children. And I would say it to this woman's face in front of her children. And I think people, I hope nobody's surprised when we bring public ruination to parents and physicians and are seeking the assassination of their character, not their literal assassination, but their character. And there is, some of us are not going to have gentle education around this. And I think that's going to be a significant evolution here in intactivism, from where it is right now. A lot of these people who are like, a lot of these non-intactivists that are hating on the bloodstained men, like, oh, look at how wild these people are and how offensive these people are, have no idea what's coming, have no idea at all what is coming here. So I'll leave it at that though, for now.
Yeah, I think I just have a quick response to that,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
we can jump to the next thing. I think that woman making the jokes, just, I could put it bluntly, she just needs to shut up. And
yeah,
we should use whatever means necessary within the confines of the law to make her do it.
yeah,
So whether that's threats of policy change that would make her liable for extreme things. I think whatever framing we need to take, even if you said that, oh, it may not actually happen, I think just taking the framing has a lot of potential from the power angle. I would like to create the culture of complete impermissibility around talking about this issue or you're doing the procedure or talking about it in any way that's supportive. I'd like it to be so completely impermissible that you're scared of being canceled and you're scared of having friends cut you off. And whatever social pressures it takes to get people to feel scared to say these things within, I'm not talking about threatening them, I'm talking about scared within the social confines and within the law. I think this has a lot of potential. And then I also think that people's behavior and the law and policy is downstream of culture. So and that's on us to try and influence the culture. And if we are even a little bit successful at moving the culture to make this kind of discourse, the kind that she's engaging in, even a little bit less permissible, I think that goes a long way towards impacting general public opinion and then also downstream of that behavior and policy.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. Okay. So the next thing that I have on the agenda, and I'm not sure if you want to take this in another direction, but it's discussing future guests on this podcast and potentially how we want to format that discussion. And I think that's largely something that we'll discuss internally, but I want to give an opportunity to briefly touch base on it, that we are looking to bring more people into these discussions and facilitate, in some instances, a sort of panel discussion on these different subjects that we bring up, and also give people an opportunity to inject in their own ideas. So they're working on a project or they came across a piece of content that they want to discuss. Because there's times where I come across, I mean, that's just one piece of content that we just discussed, but there's some really triggering stuff that I come across um, that I want to share with the larger Intactivist space or this forefront community. And so I'm going to take that opportunity every time now going forward, now that we're building this community here. But um, for anyone else that comes across something that's triggering, or they feel like it exposes the state of where we're at right now, or they just want to discuss it for whatever reason, this is a perfect opportunity to come on and present that. And we obviously need to vet the content beforehand, and we would review that. But um, for anyone that wants to have that discussion, later on, we'll share how you can get in contact with us. Well, I'll just go into it right now. The Discord community is the best way. So we'll have links to the Discord server on YouTube and on our YouTube channel in the bio and then in the description of every video. We're going to include that in there. So, and for people who don't know what Discord is, just research a little bit it on your own. It's similar to Slack if you're familiar with that platform. You can create communities on Discord, and then you can create a bunch of channels on Discord, both text channels and voice channels. So it's just a way to facilitate group discussion and scope that discussion to specific channels. And it's the perfect place for us to build this tight knit community of Intactivists. And it's also the perfect place to raise the questions and the content that you want us to discuss on this podcast. So the other way is through our email, which will also be included on YouTube, both in the description and in the channel information. So you can reach out to us directly through that email as well, which is usaforefront at gmail.com for now. And in the near future here, we're looking to get a professionally branded email as well and purchase a domain name that is related to Forefront that we can use for more branded emails. Anything else you want to share in regards to that, Jack?
No, only thing, I don't know if we discussed this prior. One of the things you were chatting about is people coming on for panel discussions, coming on the
Mhm.
show, right?
Yeah.
So if this is okay with you, I'd want to offer, just so it's clear, that people, if they'd like to come on, after we vet them or do whatever is necessary, they're welcome to come on without their camera on. I want to
Yeah,
make it
great point.
easy for people to feel like they can take the first step or come on if they'd like without taking, revealing themselves publicly or doing anything they wouldn't want to do. So I kind of want to make this as easy as possible. So please do join. Please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, great point. Great point. And it's very possible that we also have private discussions in the Discord server. So we might do like a Saturday or sometime during the week, we'll have more of a private discussion. And that can maybe help acclimate people to these more public discussions as well. So we'll do this more internal community discussion. That'll help us discover, even at times, what we want to discuss during this more public conversation. But we're going to try and facilitate also more private, internal community focused discussions in this server as well. And so, for people that are maybe uncomfortable at first with the public discussion, you can start out there in that private arena and then graduate to the more public discussions over time. But then also, I want to actually also facilitate communications and discussions with people that possibly are very against us or not aligned with us in any way. And I think it's, that's not going to come at first. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but bring people on who really disagree with us, or maybe aren't even part of our core audience as well. Like a guest that I'm considering bringing on is my own mom, actually, who, yeah, she is an intactivist and she's totally aligned with us, obviously. But she's not really, in my opinion, like our core audience either, at least initially at first. But I do think she'd have interesting perspectives and thoughts on things that we're discussing, and possibly help us better understand how we can leverage parents in because I think parents can be very powerfully leveraged for our advocacy and especially opportunities of like mother son combos um, publicly presenting on this subject. We should really give a lot of consideration to how we can psychologically engineer people that way through leveraging this powerful mother son kind of bond or child son type of bond, whatever way, however we can exploit that. And I know that sounds maybe kind of predatory or things like that, but that's how I'm starting to think. Like when at any cost, psychologically engineer people to look at this from the correct perspective and the correct lens, however we need to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. The times when I'm trying to psychologically engineer people, including myself, I try
Right.
to make myself feel more comfortable engaging with this issue constantly. So when I'm trying to psychologically engineer people, that's maybe some of the only times I'm engaging with this issue where I don't feel completely powerless. So,
That's a powerful point. It's in itself.
and I think that's going to apply to a lot of our audience as well. So the thing that made me struggle to engage with this issue for a long time is just whenever I engaged with it, it felt so hopeless. I felt so
Yeah.
powerless. It was just so depressing to even think about it. But now that I've started, I don't know exactly what the right word is. You said like psychologically operating, or I guess coming at things from a very strategic angle and also trying to do whatever it takes to get the outcome I want, I feel a little bit more powerful. And it's actually made it so much easier, at least for me personally, to engage with this issue. It's not so depressing every time I talk about it.
That's a really interesting. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I feel very similarly. And it's like there's this dam that breaks, actually. Like once you start getting some momentum, it really builds on itself as well. Um, but even just being able to publicly discuss this issue, get on video and things like that, what I found is there was like all of this pressure before I really started becoming public or publicly discussing this, or even discussing this with my family or anyone, even getting into intactivism at all, and being able to even say the word foreskin or something like that, there was a massive hump that I had to get over. But once I got over that hump, then it was just like this very exponential increase in how comfortable I was discussing this and getting involved in it. And I think there's for a lot of people, there's this dam that has to break. But then once it does, um, you become increasingly comfortable at a very accelerated rate discussing this subject matter, and then it gets to the point where you kind of forget even where other people are at. Like it's so many years go by with you being extremely comfortable with this, discussing this, that you can't, it's hard for you to even put yourself in the position of somebody else that hasn't discussed it. And that's something that I run into actually kind of frequently. You can shut people's minds off at times discussing this, like bringing up the word foreskin or circumcision. I found people that have just completely frozen in place, like they look like a deer in headlights and stuff. Um, and it's so crazy for me now to think of where I was at 7 years ago and where I'm at now with this subject matter. There's just a chasm there. And I think that's partially part of our responsibility and goal with this organization is just getting more and more men comfortable and women and anyone discussing this topic. I mean, that's a major barrier for us right now is it's no most people even who are really traumatized by this don't have the confidence yet or and it's well beyond I think just confidence. Sometimes it's hard to really present a compelling argument or really be able to break this down in a way that you can be compelling and can be assertive and authoritative on it. So I would love for this community to be that sort of incubator for people in which they can grow their power level in and grow their confidence in, and then we set them out into the world. Um, as our operatives of the New World Order. I'm just kidding. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to focus on. So, sorry, did you have something else?
no, I was going to get into like intelligence agencies, like, but that's it's just silly stuff. But yeah.
No, good. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that's kind of my dream is to be the chief psychological operations officer of the United States, which sounds ridiculous and kind of corny, but we're looking to incubate operatives within this community and then set those operatives into other communities for our to further our goals and cause is how I'm looking at it internally. But I don't want to present myself as necessarily like the leader of this either. I think it's more of this organization. I think it is, the way that I'd like to frame it is this more or republic, not necessarily Republican, but a sort of collective republic that, there's equal standing among a fair amount of people within this movement. So we got cut off there, but I was just finishing off on how I'm thinking of our community in some ways in my own mind, which is that we're looking to incubate these. Um, One way to frame it, I think, is thought leaders, but another way to think of it, and how I think of it, is like these psychological operations officers or agents that we are releasing into our communities or other communities. And, I've had thoughts, there's all these other Discord servers that are out there where I've made really passionate, even very effective arguments in these different Discord servers. But what would really help me? And sometimes there's audiences of like 100+ people that I'm talking with in these Discord servers. What would be really advantageous for me is like a group of four other people in these conversations with me that are backing my points up and offering commentary on what I'm saying and just potentating my whole arguments. And possibly, we don't even reveal that they're affiliated with us or that we have these formal connections with these people. That's the type of depth that I'm talking about here in terms of win at all cost in socially engineering people. I think we're completely in the right here, and those types of deception is not concerning for me, really, or I don't shy away from that. So there's all of these essentially psychological operations that I'm trying to execute and run. And I want to bring more people into those pursuits with me and leverage a larger base of quote unquote psychological operations, operations agents to play, play a role with me in that, in accelerating our cause and convincing and making persuasive arguments to large communities of people.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. And I think it kind of has a double effect. As in, if you have these people in the community trying to be agents to convince other people, I think just that framing in and of itself also has a psychological effect on the people that are in our movement with us. As in, I kind of want to do have the evolution that I've had with regard to how comfortable I am engaging with this issue. And I would like to offer that to other people in this community. And I don't know fully exactly how to do that, but I think one major way to do that is give people a framework to engage with this issue by which they aren't completely powerless, and also be transparent in that. So I think this is kind of related to exactly what you're describing, which is get letting people feel like they're getting one over on others. That's a power thing. That makes people feel powerful. And if we're able to offer that to people, not only does it have a potential effect on the other people that we're trying to convince to come to our side, but it also has an effect on the people that are here already who feel powerless engaging with this right now. And I
Yeah,
want to explore this more, come up with more ideas of how to empower the people that are here. I don't have all the answers yet, but I think this is definitely a good idea.
that's an excellent point, and I'm glad you illuminated that and expanded on kind of how you thought I was framing this, because that's spot on. And I think as a community, as a larger intactivist community, we have so many losses. Like I hate to say it, but there's just so many situations where it feels like we're really losing and being disempowered. It's a very regular experience for us that we don't even know, or we forget how empowering it is to win in a certain situation. Like there have been times where I've had conversations like in these other Discord servers or in my personal life where I've convinced a large group of people, or really made a very powerful impression, or convinced somebody not to circumcise their child. And these wins can like sustain and power me and totally change my psychological outlook on things for extended periods of time. And then, you encounter a lot of what we consider losses, or where we're feeling disempowered as well. But um, I think a lot of us haven't even felt like we've had one win in the Intactivist community. Like it's always so doom and gloom, and it feels like there's no hope and things like that, that a lot of us don't even know what winning on this issue feels like yet. And so we don't even aren't really super incentivized to pursue it because we haven't experienced what it's like to win on this. But um, I have experienced what I felt like are wins, and it is a really powerful, positive experience, and it can really quickly shift the long-term kind of doom and gloom outlook that a lot of men who feel traumatized by this experience. And I certainly still experience that pretty regularly, though, at times, where it does feel like, we're never getting out of this situation. We got completely screwed. Nobody's getting it, and things aren't ever going to change in a time frame that works for us. Um, but having these positive experiences and wins can dramatically change your outlook pretty quickly. And then I think that when your outlook is changed like that, you get a lot more confidence. You become more assertive, and it builds on itself. And there's a lot of momentum that you can gain from getting these small incremental wins. For me, it really feels like my quote unquote power level like continues to rise as I get more wins under my belt, or my confidence and my assertiveness and my, how comfortable I am in my zone just continues to increase more and more and more as I rack up more and more wins on this subject, or in this advocacy.
Yeah, I think a major hurdle for the movement today, and I think kind of as you put it, is there's just not a lot of wins. Or another way that I like to think about it is even when there are wins, they're often very impersonal. So
Hmm.
let's say you save a child, you might never meet that child, and even if
Yeah.
you do, you'll probably never know anything about their sexual life and the sexual things the benefits that you've awarded them by preventing this from happening to them. So today, what you get, even when you win, is kind of some abstract notion that you had a positive impact, but it's very impersonal. And I find that unfortunately sometimes demotivating. As in, even when I win, I don't really see the impact. I only have an abstract notion. So I think there's definitely a place for all types of activism. I'd like to see if there's any way to make the activism more personal, where you get to see the consequences of your actions day to day, maybe with people you know in real life or online, but you get to hear about the consequences, the positive
Yeah.
consequences.
Yeah, that's a great point. And there's going to be all sorts of dimensions that attract people to becoming more thought leaders on this. And not that this is what it should is all about, certainly not, but what I've found is that there's enough people that are receptive enough to this issue. Like, and even if they're against you on this, you really do build up serious respect and authority with people if you're willing to confront this head on. And not everyone, some people it's going to ruin your relationships with, or um, it's going to ruin their perspective on you in an irreconcilable sort of way. But with my family and my extended, friend group and things like that, there I'm really bringing a lot of gravity to this and um, elevating this subject and doing so in a way where they really do. They're starting to, there's a significant portion of people in my network that are really starting to get um, the downstream consequences of this and there's certain ways to frame it that I think really help assist in that. And one is by framing it as, hey, 2 to 3 thousand. No, nobody ever throws those metrics in. Many intactivists don't throw these metrics in right now, but 2 to 3 thousand infants male infants in the United States alone are having their genitals intruded into and having their sexual anatomy amputated every single day. And that is, a crisis situation that if we involved ourselves in and got this abandoned, policed, and criminalized and policed, that objectively would have transformative effects on our society and our culture and the capacity for happiness and minimizing concerning psychiatric developments in people from being genitally assaulted and having, permanent sexual sensory loss. For the people that are kind of receptive to this in some ways, there is just a lot of truth to what we're saying from a societal engineering standpoint. So the reason I bring that all up is I'm getting serious credibility with a certain audience of people where if you're interested in political pursuits and you're interested in community building and being seen as a thought leader and authoritative figure that wants to play a role in shaping our society, this subject matter is actually can be really interested in playing a role in establishing yourself in that position. And I don't know how to fully articulate it right now or completely convey my experiences, but I think this is a really good way because it's very accurate. There's a lot of truth, I believe, to what's being said here is that people who can recognize this as the atrocity that it is and then take actions to help our community abandon police and criminalize it, you are actually doing something that is very profoundly important and critical for societal building and social engineering and, building a well-functioning nation state here. So, um, and I went kind of into a long-winded answer on that, but maybe the short way to frame it is this is, taking a stand on this and being effective in your advocacy on this is a way to begin building yourself up as a community leader. And there's a lot of positive responses that I get from that now at times from people who are starting to see me as a thought leader. And that I feel like has a reinforcing effect as well on your desire to pursue this when people actually give you credibility and give you praise for the sacrifice that you're making at this point in time.
Yeah, I think that's very well put. And I've noticed something similar. And I kind of want to both replicate it in this online community, as in, if you land here, we're going to try and make you the authority and make you a thought leader. Or we're going to make ourselves available to you to help you to that end. And then also, I think I've noticed in my personal life with the people I really know, when I bring this up more and more, like you said, eventually people start to see me as the authority on this issue. And not only on this issue, the authority in general, because
Yeah,
I'm able to speak so authoritatively on this subject in a way that I can't for any others. But my confidence and just my manner of speaking on this has sort of bled over into my perception on all things. So I'm not in it only for myself, but I think it's also good to have reasons to be in it just for myself, to keep me motivated, to keep coming back. Like I said, I'm trying to also psychologically operate on myself. And this
right.
is something I found to be true, just like you, Carter, as in I feel more authoritative after engaging with this issue, even in my personal real life.
Right, right. And something to keep in mind is if we do become politically effective on this issue, then we've tuned ourselves to be politically effective on a lot of things as well. Like this experience that we get through this pursuit has a lot of will carry over in a lot of different dimensions and a lot of different ways. And the networks that we build through this and the strategy that we conceptualize for to win here, um, I think there's just a lot of ways that that can carry over into other political pursuits. And it's something maybe, we should keep in mind as we continue pursuing this. Do we have a larger political identity here and a larger political movement here? Because I think that there possibly is, not that we should be super, excluding people because of this, but there is something unique potentially about this collective of people that are starting to, push back against routine infant genital mutilation, routine ritual infant genital mutilation. We might find that we have a lot of similarities in a lot of other areas as well. And we want to pursue a larger political ambition. But I don't think that really should be part of the equation right now. But maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's kind of a debate arena, like I'm saying here. So anyone can bring up their thoughts and perspectives and inject their own ideas into this discourse here.
Right. I feel like this issue is about as difficult as it gets because no one currently cares. So I feel like if we're even a little bit effective at getting people to care about this issue, I think this might be what you're kind of saying, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with in
Yeah.
whatever sphere we want, including the political sphere or really any power system. Which is if we can take this incredibly unpopular, uncomfortable thing and make it even a little bit more in the limelight, then we have strategies that are going to be super effective no matter what we do.
Yeah. Yep. And so I think we're just on the start of that journey here. And it's a long, it's a long, long journey I think we're going down, but I think we're making the right moves here to get the party rolling. Cool. Is there anything else you wanted to dive into during this particular episode? I think that in the next episode, that's when I'm going to try and bring on an additional guest or potentially a panel. And maybe they're not even on for the full discussion. Maybe it's like we bring in two people to discuss just one part of the episode, or we have like a featured person who shares a project that they're working on or something, and then we just go back to us two. But we'll have that discussion maybe more privately, but also, if anyone that joins our Discord server that wants to, present recommendations for even the format of this podcast and things like that, we're totally open to that. And again, the Discord server is the best place to be to begin, getting your perspective out there and influencing even how we operate and things like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I'm just going to kind of echo back what you said. Yeah, I think it'd be awesome to have some guests on next time. I think you maybe mentioned that, probably not for next time. You mentioned that maybe in the future one would be your mom. I think also one not for next time, but maybe at some point in the future, my girlfriend might be interested in coming on.
Yeah.
So I'd have to confirm that with her. I think that could be a really interesting perspective about the dating dynamics and how I think about this with dating and how she thinks about this.
Yeah.
So I
That,
think
you
that could be
know,
interesting. Yeah, go
I think
ahead.
that's a yeah, great idea. I'm even thinking the girl that I'm seeing right now, this might be a interesting like bringing people on to get them acclimate. Like I think we can really shift people's, especially people like that are romantically connected to us, sometimes having them see a larger sphere or more people that are involved in this and serious discussions around this, it can just dramatically change their perspective as well and help them understand, okay, this is some serious shit. There's people who are extremely passionate about it. I mean, that was the case with my mom personally. Is like once she went to that conference, she's like, oh, there's a serious force that's building here. These are not, people to play around with, and they're in it for the long term. It's not just my son. It's not just this small group of men. This is a long-term, large movement that is building here. And it gave my mom actually a lot more confidence in discussing this subject matter, I think, and being affiliated with it. But it also helped her just better unfortunately, it is true. Like once you see this larger collective of people that are involved in this, it adds just a lot of legitimacy to the individual victims. Um, so I'm not sure if that's partially the reason why you'd want to bring your girlfriend on. But I think for people who potentially want to accelerate, people in their lives, perspective on this or help them get to the place that we're at, people could bring on their parents or they could bring on their girlfriend or a friend to join the conversation with us and kind of be exposed to all the things we're saying and things like that to maybe onboard them quicker and quicker and quicker. This could serve partially as that sort of opportunity to bring people on, who aren't necessarily super formally invested in this right now, but to expose them to this larger space of men that are very passionate about it.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'd want it both for the benefit of her, like you said, and
Hmm.
also the benefit of the audience.
Yeah,
I feel like 'cause this is something I had to broach with her
right,
relatively early in our relationship because obviously I'm not going to be doing this to my kids. That's kind of a
right.
deal breaker for me in a relationship.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be interesting to chat through some of those discussions because I
Yeah, I
don't
think it'd
think
be
there's much.
extremely interesting content. Yeah. And I have a similar desire myself. And maybe even getting to, oh, here's how I felt when you said, um, isn't it cleaner? Why wouldn't you want to be cut? Because it's cleaner. And how that's, all the thoughts that were going through my head when you said that and things like that. Not that we have to even be super antagonistic, but to really break down the depth of feelings here as well with our significant others and how our significant others respond to this and things like that. I think there's a lot of interesting content that could be created around that for sure.
Yeah. So for the audience, and I'll probably wrap with this unless you had any other topics. If you want to see any of this future content, please engage with the video, like, comment, subscribe, all of that. And it really helps us get some feedback going and motivates us to keep putting these out. So we want to give you guys this content. So just show us that you're interested and we'll keep chugging along and get to all these things.
Hell yeah, perfect. All right, good stuff, Zach or Jack. Uh, we'll catch up here again soon and we'll leave it at that.
All right.
Okay, looking
Good
forward to
talking
the
to you,
next
Carter.
episode. Take care, guys.